Start us off, Carter.
Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you: ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling cloths, laying in a manger. And suddenly there was with this angel a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Kevin.
Man, Christmas is about football.
What were we to? Oh, fuck the podcast. Welcome to Carter and Kevin Explain Football. Carter here.
I'm Kevin.
And yes, we had ourselves a Christmas extravaganza of football games. Too many football games. I'm going to be honest, ever since they added the 18th week, I've had this little, feeling in my stomach of, too much football now. Too many football games. And
I felt. I think it's because Christmas was on a Monday this year. I know football gets played every Monday too, but it was it felt overloaded this week, especially with the Saturday games and stuff, and then Christmas Eve games, and then Christmas Day games. It felt a little overloaded all at once.
When half the week has football, it just kind of becomes a blur.
Mm-hmm.
I just start to lose track of who's playing what week and what week it even is. But yeah, we actually had some pretty significant football games this week that have largely shaped not only the course of a lot of teams' playoff aspirations, but also who will get the top pick.
Yep.
So shall we kick it off with our high notes?
We shall.
All right.
Christmas was saved.
Yes. So both of our teams really tried to just poop their pants in critical moments. The Buffalo Bills kind of regressed to their earlier season form where, and I guess this is where I'm okay, was Ken Dorsey really the problem? Because it was the same, somebody fumbles, another fumble, somebody drops a pass, and then we're down and have to furiously come back. I guess the Bills should be happy they avoided the classic new coach curse, because boy howdy, were those Chargers a bunch of scrappy whippersnappers coming off one of the most embarrassing games in franchise history.
Yep.
They ended up winning 24-22. It had all the makings of a classic Bills history game, but fortunately they did dodge it, mostly because Josh Allen led a game-winning field goal drive. And then Ed Oliver, who's kind of low-key been the team MVP this year, was all right, we're not pooping our pants again, and sacked Easton Stick to basically run out the clock for the most part. Mostly I wanted to just talk about this game because I want to send a little message to my fellow Buffalonians. Guys, we got to chill out about the Josh Allen MVP stuff. This week, for some reason in particular, the Josh Allen MVP discourse just got really excessive and very loud. It just got very look how many touchdowns he has compared to Lamar Jackson. Look what he does for his team. He accounts for 86% of our touchdowns. He's the first guy to score 40 touchdowns in 4 straight years. And I'm I agree with all that, but it's just I think it's very fitting that the Bills use the phrase trust the process. Because so much of the Bills, as I've said before, is very similar to the Philadelphia 76ers. Sort of building from scratch, trying to find that superstar that puts them over the top. Cartoonish playoff losses that get etched into the annals of history. Probably keeping a bunch of coaches around a little too long for the sake of continuity. And this is maybe the apex example of the whole thing, because Sixers fans got so obsessed with getting Joel Embiid, their star MVP, because I think deep down, both of these teams have this sneaking, overwhelming feeling that we might have missed our chance to win a Super Bowl. So at least if we get our guy the MVP, we'll have some record of this in the books. So please, guys, it's okay if Lamar wins it this year. He's also good. It's okay if Christian McCaffrey wins it. It would be nice for a non-quarterback to win. it would be, well, we'll get to Brock Purdy, but, you know, everything's going to be okay, guys. It's about the playoffs. It's about getting past the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end of the Castpod spectrum, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New York Giants by the score of 33-25. A game that really didn't feel like it should be close. I don't remember what the spread was because I really don't like gambling. But
Yeah, I don't know the spread either, but it was way too close for comfort at points.
The dream of Tommy DeVito finally died. The cutlets got cooked. They pulled him out for Tyrod Taylor, who, like, it is very funny the minute he gets in there. You're like, man, he really is was so much better than Tommy DeVito, huh?
Yeah. No, that was like an interesting halftime switch. No, I mean, I wouldn't say interesting halftime switch, but it was like as in, like, why did they make this choice? It's like I'm eating Christmas dinner, and I get a notification on my phone, and it's just like Tommy DeVito's on the bench, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it seems like with many a backup this year, the magic ran out at just the inopportune moment. You know, you get a couple good games and then you finally get pulled. I mean, honestly, Tyrod probably should have been, like, if the team was super serious about winning, they probably should have had Tyrod in the minute he was healthy again. But, like,
they didn't.
Tommy DeVito gives you plausible deniability because it's like, hey, he did win a game, but also you're like, deep down, Tyrod would be winning all of these games too, and probably more. So,
yeah.
You know, it was a tough balancing act. And look, I'll always like Tyrod because he was the first Bills quarterback in my lifetime to get us to the playoffs. And a guy who's truly gotten kind of screwed everywhere he's gone, lest we forget that he got a concussion, which led to Baker Mayfield starting for the first time.
Yep.
He was starting over Justin Herbert, only to get fucking stabbed by the team doctor and having a collapsed lung. A man who is much better than history will remember him as. And he almost beat the Eagles here. He was leading a game-winning drive.
Yeah, that was a little intense. Not gonna lie.
Yes. But for now, the Eagles stop the skid and are at 11-4 and still have a chance to get the number one seed.
Yep. There's still a chance. So, like, a little bit in the game. First off, Jake Elliott slaying field goals, like, left and right.
He's taken the crown.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to affect me that much either because I had Justin Tucker on my I had Justin Tucker and Jake Elliott on my fantasy team. So, you know. I've also been thinking about just dropping now because I'm not going anywhere play anymore. Just dropping a good portion of my team and just for the chaos aspect.
Oh God, I've been asking you to do that personally for me.
Well, I wanted to do it before. What's it called? I wanted to make sure I didn't come in last place overall.
Well, okay, that's fair. But yeah, no, I mean, I might be done with fantasy. This year kind of slowly destroyed me. I truly drafted the sort of holy grail of good on paper, bad in practice of Tony Pollard, who is inexplicably allergic to the end zone, and really does remind you, like, hey, no matter how much medical technology has advanced, if someone broke their leg within a calendar year, you probably shouldn't be starting them. Mm-hmm. Jalen Waddle, who was either beat up or completely losing all of his opportunities to the Tyreek-centric offense. And Travis Kelce, who very clearly is considering a new career path because he doesn't want to play football anymore.
Yeah. That was interesting.
Yes.
All right, anyway,
and I lost to a guy who had Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey because one of our friends is a dope and traded Christian McCaffrey. I would love to hear his justification for it.
Down boy.
Yeah, I know. All right. I'm taking a breath.
Back to the Birds. It felt good to be back on pace again.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
That was a bleak period there.
Yeah, that felt like a reasonable Eagles game to watch. Where third quarter was definitely not the most opportune. because the
Hmm.
Giants were able to score 14 unanswered. Nope. Hold on.
For the love of God, Kevin, math, it'll save your life someday.
Is it all right? What is 18 minus 3? 15. 15 unanswered points.
For the love of God.
I wasn't a good student. I would have. I think I would have failed concussion protocol. Um,
Oh, Christ.
but
Yeah.
I think this game was played a lot safer than some of the other previous games,
Hmm.
where they're not going for it in field goal range on fourth down. They're they just choose the field goal because
Hmm.
they have a very good kicker, arguably one of the best in the league. But here's some of the distances he made it from. He made a 28-yard field goal. He made a 21-yard field goal. He made a 44 and a 43. Those aren't like the 28 and 21-yard field goals. Those are very close for just a field goal and not like an extra point.
Hmm.
So they were right up there, and they decided let's get the points on the board, and that's something I believe one of the previous weeks had a rant from me about where it's just like like stop trying to overdo it, get the guaranteed points outside instead of the potential points.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. They're a weird team to pin right now. It just feels like half the time it feels like they're kind of just cruising because they're like, well, we'll turn it on for the playoffs. And the other half of the time it feels like there's just an overwhelming amount of angst.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, and
yeah,
I can't quite pinpoint why because honestly, things have been going pretty well up until the losing skid, all things considered.
yeah. It's I mean the Eagles fans are like it was said all the time. The Eagles fans are undefeated, but are acting like they have lost like every single game, and then it's just like, oh, what happened? And it's just like, well, the Eagles won, and it's like, why are you so depressed about this?
Yeah, let's be honest. Deep down, you're kind of excited.
Yeah,
I think Eagles fans love being the underdog. They love constantly feeling like they might have diarrhea during a game from stress.
hmm, yeah,
I think I think that's where you guys fit in best in the world.
yeah. And then
Um,
one last little, it's I guess more of a shout out. Shout out to rookie Keely Ringo. He made the game like so it was like 25-33, which is it's technically possible to come back from that.
right.
And he made the game-ending interception. And me and my one cousin were talking about it, like, but in the beginning of the game, like last week, Keely Ringo was looking good, and then this previous game, he was looking good too. Another another kid that knows when to show up in times of need and is earning his cut of the roster.
Yeah, I was impressed. Honestly, like again, I think they actually played pretty well. And yeah, like I don't know. Again, it's like it's so interesting because I watch it and I'm like, I don't think they're bad. It's just really it's so similar to the Bills for some reason, where it's like just weird calamities keep occurring that keep them like cost them critical moments.
Hmm.
And it's so hard to like I don't know, it just really is like, well, if the dumb things stop happening, everything will be fine.
Yeah,
And I don't like I know that's not the like I know again that's not a sophisticated take necessarily, but I'm like I don't know how else to put it. Like, hey, if that one interception doesn't happen that one time, they would have been fine. If this doesn't happen that one time, they would have been fine. Honestly, my only worry is like again the defense is built. Again we talk about like the Georgia defense, and I think this point got it was in our lost episode, but like you know for the vaunted Georgia defense discourse, you do remember, like, oh yeah, a lot of these guys don't play a lot at Georgia, and like
Yeah.
clearly they're taking the time to like, clearly they need more time to figure out like how to play a full NFL season. Um, shall we move on to our next point?
Yeah. Yeah. I
The
thought I had an
Detroit
extra thing to
Lions.
say, but apparently I didn't.
Oh, um, but yes, the Detroit Lions get the division.
Yep.
So by beating the Minnesota Vikings 30-24, the Detroit Lions clinch their first division title since 1993. Now, here's a little fun game I'm going to give you. Guess some of the movies that were in the top 10 film box office
All right.
in 1993. All right, the first one is a movie that I think you would get.
Jurassic Park.
So, holy shit, you got it.
Yeah, I know when Jurassic Park was made. That's right.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it grossed, it was the number one grosser in the US. All right, second one. This one might be harder. It starts with an F. It's about a guy who's on the run. They think he committed a crime, and Tommy Lee Jones is trying to track him down. It's got The Simpsons parody it with Millhouse.
That doesn't
Millhouse is like running through a tunnel, and it's like, I didn't do it. I don't care. And
Is
then he
it
jumps.
Forrest Gump?
No. But no, Forrest Gump wasn't this year. I'm trying to think how to describe this to you. No, it's closer, but not quite. It's like more of an action movie. I'll give you one more guess.
I feel like there's only one logical answer, and it is Pulp Fiction.
No, that's the next year. The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones.
Would have never gotten that.
I wanted to give you a chance. I don't think you'll get this one, so I'm just going to say The Firm is 3. Number 4, here's a fun one. Okay, so this is a movie that has the name. So the name has a city in it. It is a city that is in the NFC.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Damn, got it. Yes, that was number 4. And number 5, which is the last one we'll do. This is a comedy starring one of the most popular sort of comedians, funny guys of our generation. Like, he is no longer with us, but very, very beloved. Boy? No. Close. Similar energy. You're on the right track, but a different famous comedian.
Different famous comedian that's no
longer with us. It is one of his famous put on a voice in
Aladdin.
No, that's number 8. That is also this year, but he inexplicably had both of these in the same year.
Okay, Flubber.
No. You're closer. You got the right actor, but it's not the right movie.
I got Robin. Is it Good Will Hunting? Wilt Hunting?
No. This is more comedic. This is super silly.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes, you got it.
Right.
Yes, it's Jurassic Park, The Fugitive, The Firm, Sleepless in Seattle, and Mrs. Doubtfire, with Aladdin, A Few Good Men, Free Willy, and Groundhog Day later down the line. Man, this is a good year for movies. Sensible Woman, Crying Game, Demolition Man, Last Action Hero, Nightmare Before Christmas.
I did not make a coherent sentence for a second. I was like, this is a good movie here. And it's like, no, that's not English. Yeah, no, that's it's kind of insane. And honestly, I feel like the Lions have earned this. They've been...
Oh, yes.
They're 11-4. What is it? 4 teams that are 11-4? Yeah, 4 teams that are 11-4, and they were the least guaranteed, because the other teams that are 11-4 or better is the Baltimore Ravens, which, while people were, me being one of them especially, were more out on at the beginning of the season, they've clearly proved their worth.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Dolphins, which they're both at that just shy of being a dynasty. I think dynasty team is what I want to call it. But it's with the way these contracts are lined up and stuff like that, these are good,
Mhm.
like
But
solid setups and stuff.
yes, this game got a little tense at the end. Another game that screwed me in fantasy because I truly did not envision the Vikings going air raid and just trying to throw themselves into this game.
Yeah,
Nick Mullins, who was like the OG Shanahan, oh, he can do it with any quarterback guy. When in reality, he's been very bad. Honestly, he's more closer to like, hey, what if Nathan Peterman kept getting chances? Like, what if throwing 5 interceptions in one game wasn't enough to largely end his NFL career, and just got kept getting to do it? The 3 times he has started half the season, he threw 13 touchdowns and 10 picks one season, and then went 12-12 another season, and basically has not gotten to start more than 5 games since. He threw 4 interceptions this game. Jared Goff and the Lions were like incredibly efficient. Like I do love because this game kind of like validates so much of the Lions sort of vision of like we're going to build culture first. We're going to go all in on like culture and building accountability and like building it up with young guys. We are going to build the lines. We are going to be able to run the ball, and then we are going to create a passing game around like safe bets and like methodical passing. Like most of their draft picks have really panned out. They found diamonds in the rough with like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everyone who questioned them drafting Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs have kind of gotten proven wrong. Jahmyr Gibbs looks amazing. And yeah, it's kind of like it's so nice to see them live up to the hype exactly in the way we wanted them to, of like, this offense is going to rule and it's going to make up for the fact that their defense isn't great. And they are going to get to host a playoff game for the first time, well, since 1993, obviously, because they would have been a wild card for any other time they made playoffs with Matthew Stafford.
yeah.
And will they? I don't know if they still have a chance for the number 1 seed. I would have to like actually look at the standings and really delineate that.
It's in that like technical level of there's 2 games left.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes,
they're
they
tied.
would have to
They're
win out.
tied with the
Yes,
Eagles and 49ers. The 49ers would have to lose out, which they're playing Washington and I think Arizona, so it doesn't seem that likely. Um, Lions would have to win out. They're playing Dallas and Vikings, so semi possible for them. And then the Eagles would also have to lose out for them to be
right.
guaranteed the number 1 seed. And Eagles are playing the Cardinals and Giants, so it's like oh,
Tricky,
sorry.
but not
The
necessarily
the
impossible.
49ers are playing the Rams, not the Cardinals. That's on me.
Hmm. There
Um,
is a very real chance that our first playoff game with them is against Matthew Stafford, and
I
I
wouldn't hate
like
that, honestly.
honestly, we would be spoiled to get a game that exciting. But at the same time, I'm like, shoot, I really want the Lions to like. I think they would lose to the Rams, but I want to see them win a playoff game because like it is weird
Yeah,
because it's like this is the reward for building all this culture, but at the same time, like their offensive coordinator Ben Johnson like is almost certainly going to get a coaching gig this time. He decided to stay because he straight up was like, yeah, I had opportunities to be a head coach, but I decided it meant more to me to get a playoff game with this team. Like
which
we're
is
all in this together.
which is nice.
Yeah, it's genuinely awesome. And I'm like, I am worried. It's like, okay, when he leaves, is his offense still going to be the same? Like, we're seeing that with the Eagles. We're seeing that with the Bills, where it's like, you know, it's all the same players, but when you do lose that engineer, like, it
Yeah,
can run into some hiccups. So for me, I'm like, I want to see this Lions team get as far as they possibly can because, I like to think, there are a lot of young guys and a lot of like good vibes, but you want to take advantage of the good times while you're 100% sure they're here.
yeah. And ironically, so like the every other division, you either have your winner locked in,
Hmm.
which they are one of them, or there's 2 teams from that division that are very close. Like
Right.
there's no locked in one for the AFC North because both the Browns and like the Browns are close, and then the Steelers and Bengals are right up there with them.
Right. Yes,
Yeah,
it is. I can't believe. I was like, surely one of these two of these teams are going to bottom out. I can't believe the Cleveland Browns are 10-5. I didn't list that as one of our highs, but like, yeah,
it's insane.
it's insane and it's very frustrating because again, I even like Joe Flacco. I like everyone on the team, but I can't get past like the horrific thing they did to the NFL.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how the Browns owner or GM like feel comfortable being like, we could have just gotten this guy, like even if we didn't want Baker anymore, we could have just gotten Joe Flacco, who is kind of the exact right energy that we need right now. Of like, look, at the end of the day, the most points this defense is going to give up is like 12. I can probably throw 3 interceptions and not cost us the game, but for every 3 interceptions I throw, I'm going to get like 1 pass interference for 20 yards, 3 huge gains to someone, and I'm going to get us in position to win this game. So let's fucking go. And it is very annoying that it has to be the Browns because it is kind of entertaining to see, like, as Lamar Jackson kind of reaches his like apex form, the guy he replaced is inexplicably back.
Yeah.
Somehow Joe Flacco has returned. But yes,
He's got
it is so interesting.
Like I would say like an old sage kind of thing going on now.
Yeah, he looks cooler. That's honestly the biggest thing. He like looks cool, and I think that helps the vibe. But yes, there's only right now there are only only 2 divisions are settled right now. Like because the Bills can still theoretically take the Dolphins. The Chiefs are tumbling down, and everyone in the AFC South is close. This probably it feels like this is one of the closer years. Like I feel like things are more settled by this point.
It's
in previous
I feel
years.
Which first off, great for football. That it's coming down. It's literally going to come down to week 18.
Which was going to make our job next week very hard to decide the order before. Well, they'll probably have already announced it, but it'll be very hard for us to do our job and pick the perfect schedule.
Yeah, I think we could do it though.
We'll do our
Technically, we don't have to even wait till next week to record it.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Anyway, let's get back on to this week and this last week.
Yes. So let Lamar cook. So this was kind of the marquee game of the week, final game of the week on Monday nights. It was San Francisco, Baltimore, which a lot of people believed was going to be a sort of preview of the Super Bowl, perhaps.
Yeah, it was the best of each conference.
Yes, it was the top dogs in each conference, and it kind of lived up to all the hype. Or at least for me, because as someone who has constantly been advocating the Church of
Lamar.
The Church of Lamar, this game kind of was everything I could have hoped for. The Baltimore Ravens beat the San Francisco 49ers 33-19. It was close for a little bit. It was a very weird first quarter where it was 3-5 because one of the I don't even know how to describe this, but basically the referee fell backwards and tripped over Lamar, and it caused them to get a safety. I didn't look. I know they're on the field, and you have to account for them being on the field, but it really feels like there should be an emergency rule because, this game didn't end up being close, but it's kind of ridiculous that could have changed things. But anyway, Lamar just kind of put on a clinic. He looked as good as I have been, insisting he is. 23 of 35 for 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. He led the team in rushing with 45 yards. And he just had this calm, methodical control over the entire game in a way that was very, very exciting to see. And meanwhile, for me, it was the defense that really stepped up and feels like if anything is going to be the difference for this team, it's going to be the defense. Roquan Smith is just a straight up superstar. He was terrorizing. He didn't get a sack, but he terrorized Brock Purdy. Kyle Hamilton is kind of quietly my favorite defensive player outside of Myles Garrett. He's a safety. He is an insane. I don't know how to describe it other than, again, physical freak. He's very tall. He runs he's very fast. He has all the range. He can basically be the one safety you have and cover damn near the entire field. They just they're able to do just enough to slow down the 49ers, particularly just keeping them out of scoring range. which is a lot easier said than done for this team. Brock Purdy threw 4 interceptions, and like, I don't know, it's weird to see me like coming back to like, guys, go easy on Brock Purdy. He's fine. But like, yeah, he was fine this game. He wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like 2 of the picks weren't his fault, and it just shows the limitations of a guy like Brock Purdy, where he just runs into this problem sometimes where like if you put a little too much on his plate and he's getting a little too much pressure around him, he will slow down or like he will make mistakes.
Yeah, he was. I wouldn't classify him doing a bad job, but I think this is one of those like real humbling games
Mm-hmm.
where um you kind of have to just be put into it, like you just get your ass handed to you clearly, and it's a game that your team can either learn from and move on, or wallow in and fail.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not like a burn on them because I feel like if you played this game 10 times, they would still win a good amount of them. It just underlines that the Ravens might be the most complete team. And it is a reminder of like, yeah, having that elite quarterback really does make a difference in games like this. Because, like, as he's running for his life, as Lamar's running for his life, he's able to create and like change the course of the game. Whereas, Brock Purdy can't really do that. The only thing that worries me for the cult of Brock Purdy is the fact that, like, Sam Darnold didn't look that bad at replacing him. But, yeah, like, again, Christian McCaffrey had a good game. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Debo all had pretty, like, there's plenty of versions of this where they all just go hero mode and pull this off. But, like, for now, the Ravens get their cheese, they get their praise, and they get to be kind of the favorites going into the final few weeks of the season.
Yeah, no, they are the number one overall, and like I said, um, I was I was a little bit out on Lamar, especially at the beginning of the season. But this is another one of those games where Kevin eats crow a little bit about his thoughts.
And in your defense, a lot of people, so, like, it is
Yeah,
not exclusively to you. I'm just happy that my take ended up being.
yeah.
Um,
No, I'm also like, it was clear at the beginning of the season I wasn't sold on Lamar, and I feel like now, but like I feel like he he's done good enough that I really shouldn't backpedal and be like not be a supporter without admitting, yeah, I was out. I was definitely wrong.
shall we move on to our don't sleep on games? We kind of have 2 fun ones here
Yeah.
for different reasons. Mine is Tampa Bay, Jacksonville. Tampa Bay kind of just put the Jacksonville Jaguars in a body bag, 30 to
Yeah.
12. The game was 20-0 going into half. This is an interesting game for both reasons. One, because I'm slowly getting radicalized to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like actually kind of liking them. Like, again, this is a team we were talking about having a top 5 pick going into this year.
Yep.
And now I'm kind of on the side of, like, are they kind of fun? Are they kind of scrappy? Like,
What was my description?
again,
It's a frat boy team that they
yes.
just like.
And again,
Yeah.
which is the exact kind of team you need around Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was never bad. He's one of those guys I empathize with because I'm like, he didn't draft himself. Yes, if you could go back, you would draft Lamar or you would draft Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield is exactly who he was coming out. A guy who makes up for his lack of physical tools with like a good sense of play and an excessive amount of confidence and a good sense of rallying the team around him. And this team is rallying around him. A pretty good mix of veterans and like young guys. And they, on the right day, they can at least run with 90% of the teams. Not beat up 90% of the league, but at least put up a good fight. Which leads me to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are kind of the opposite, inexplicably. This was supposed to be the year of the breakout, and it is just not happening. They were turnover machines this game. Trevor Lawrence had another 3 turnover game, 1 fumble, 2 picks. They just got nothing, like an inexplicable amount of nothing in the running game. 13 carries, 37 yards. Like, it is a team that, like, I kind of run out of ways to describe them other than it's like you were supposed to be better by now. And
Yeah.
it's becoming very clear that Trevor Lawrence is starting to fall into the Justin Herbert territory of, like, if you look at the analytics and you even just watching the game, sometimes you're like, no, he's good, right?
Yeah.
He's good, but the team around him isn't stepping up, and
Yeah.
like the numbers aren't as there as they should be. And it's like, well, shoot, you're gonna have to pay him, and then how are you going to pay other people to fix the other problems?
Yeah. No, it's they also like. Oops, I gotta plug in my laptop. There's drama and suspense while I plug it in. Continue.
But yeah, it is just like a truly infuriating team where it's like, it's funny that Doug Peterson is coaching this team because so much of this team has the same energy as that one great Eagles year he had of like, oh, it's a bunch of like B- guys all coming together to theoretically succeed. But the problem is when those B- people don't succeed, it's horrible. It's like abysmal because you're like, oh right, this is why we need A+ guys. This is why we need an A+ receiver or an A+ running back or an A+ collection of offensive linemen. Because unless they all rally and harmonize perfectly, it's just not going to work. And like that's before we get to the fact that they've invested a lot on this defense, and it just never gets better. It's weirdly similar to Green Bay, where it's like, how many more first-round picks are you going to dump into the side of the ball and just have no progress whatsoever?
Yeah.
Like at some point, you would, even beyond strategy, you think sheer talent would just win out at some point, right? Like these guys have it's not like you're reaching for guys. They all have first-round pedigree from other teams. They're just not. For some reason, it's not working, and that's the only way I can describe this team. It's a whole lot of stuff that just isn't working right now, and you're running out of time to make it work because, again, you have 2 more years of a cheap Trevor Lawrence, or you're going to fall into the Justin Herbert problem of like,
He's
well, we
gonna
have to
get
pay this guy.
overpaid.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay him $200 million because otherwise someone else will, and you'll look like a fucking idiot when he wins a Super Bowl with somebody else.
Yeah, and like Trevor Lawrence is good enough that the second another team pays him, like, would offer him the money, or the Jaguars don't offer him the money, another team's going to snatch him up right away.
Exactly. And like the only thing that's worse than being mediocre in this league is looking dumb because someone else is succeeding.
Yeah. And it's like he's also in one of these surprisingly most competitive divisions. The AFC South,
right.
There's 3 of them. There's the Tennessee Titans at 5-10, and then every other one of them is 8-7.
And this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be the easiest because, like, the Titans are rebuilding, the Texans were nominally rebuilding, and the Colts were rebuilding. This was supposed to be the cakewalk year.
This was supposed to be the Jaguars. Like, we're gonna take this and go. Like, we're gonna run this division and we'll have it locked up by this point. Honestly, like, at least the divisional spot. If there was a wild card contender, whatever. But it is so stupidly close.
Right.
And not a single one of these teams can afford a mess up. Because where's next week's schedule? Yeah, it's like the Jaguars have Panthers and then Titans. Should be Titans week 18. Colts have Raiders, Texans, and Texans have Titans, Colts. I don't think that's guarantees, because Titans can be a little scrappy. I have faith of them over the Panthers, but Titans can be scrappy.
Right. Yeah, like, they have less talent on paper than Titans, but I trust their coaching and their environment so much better. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, Mike Vrabel gets his team to show up to play 9 times out of 10. Even if they don't win, I'm like, there's very few games where they just get completely kicked through. just utterly like. Look, odds are they're still going to make the playoffs, but it's a very, very disappointing season from the Jaguars. And like, honestly, a part of me wonders if it'd be better for them to miss the playoffs just because then they can't lie to themselves. Like,
Yeah.
again, making the playoffs allows you to kind of lie to yourself and tell yourself, like, no, we're on the right track. And it's like, you guys emphatically aren't. And like, again, this offseason, you need to really overpay some guys and like really think seriously about your drafting process. Because again, this is a 2-year rush to try and get playoff success.
Yeah.
One playoff win in 5 years with Trevor Lawrence isn't good enough.
Yeah. That's not good enough. And then they're at a very weird spot because they're too good for like the real give me draft picks. But
Right.
they're not making they're not good enough to make like a clear distinct push.
Right. And meanwhile, your peers, the Texans are only going to get better. The Titans are at least theoretically going to get better because they'll have a higher draft pick.
Yeah.
And the Colts have been like they've been playing this entire year without their quarterback, so like they're just on house money right now.
Yeah.
Like the team literally is going to get better next year.
Yeah, no. It's an insane world we live in.
Yeah, I genuinely can't believe this is how it's going down. Do you want to share? I mean, look, I guess a part of it is Doug Peterson better as the underdog, and this is just him being reminded
back
of that.
To that status.
Yeah, getting back to his roots, you know?
Yeah.
Really breaking it down. Would you like to share your Don't Sleep on game?
So mine was the Green Bay Packers versus the Carolina Panthers.
A very fun game.
Yeah. Final score was 33-30 in favor of Green Bay. And like this is one of those games that it's not the best. It's far from the best teams. But I feel like this was a very clear almost like a clinic put on by this next generation of starting QBs.
That is a very good way of putting it, yes.
Like, first off, neither of them threw an interception.
Yes, which, given Bryce's year, is actually a big step.
Yeah, and especially with how strong the Packers' defense can be at some games. But Jordan Love went 17 for 28, 219, 2 touchdowns. Bryce Young went 23 for 36, 312, 2 touchdowns. They were not the best stats on a completion level, but I feel like that. So it's like you had the old guys group, and then now there's like you had the kind of ending a little bit last year and the year before of like the new wave of the young guys where it's like Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, like that, that kind of group. Joe Burrow of like, here's the next grouping of elite quarterbacks. And then this is like kind of like the guys, like Jordan Love, while he's been in the league, he hasn't been starting because of Aaron Rodgers. And then Bryce Young, fresh off the block, is just like, this is like a great showing from them.
Yes. An interesting stat. In terms of like starts to touchdowns, Jordan Love is one of the youngest guys to get to 30 touchdown passes if you can count the one game he started previously from this year. And for the Panthers, this is a godsend game in terms of just like, we need to see something from Bryce Young. So we can't, you can't give up on him this year anyway because you don't have a pick. You can't Josh Rosen him.
Yeah.
But like, you need to see something so this doesn't feel like, not just like for vibes around the locker room, but also like selling a coach on coming here.
Yeah.
Because again, you have to sell a coach on wanting to do this reclamation project. And yeah, there were moments in that second half when it really looked like the Packers were going to blow this where you just see like the level of like you see why Bryce Young was a prospect that people were excited about in terms of like pinpoint accuracy, like field vision and sort of just general like methodical leadership to rally a team that was down by 2 touchdowns to get into position to win the game.
Yeah. No, it was
Uh,
it was a very it it almost was a feel good game
right. I
for
mean, for both teams, though, the
yeah.
Packers defense continues to show some red flags.
Yeah, but also they have
Did,
their offense showed enough positivity that those defensive red flags can clearly be the focus point of
right,
the off season.
right. Again, this in terms of talent evaluation, you at least are like we can run a lot of this back and it should be able to work. Did you see the insane story of so the Packers suspended one of their cornerbacks because of
Yes.
this game. So I believe Jameer Alexander,
I believe it's
he
Jair, not Jameer.
Jair. Sorry, I made this mistake earlier when I was talking to my dad about it because I just like decided that's what it was in my head before actually reading the article.
Hmm.
Um, Jair Alexander apparently just decided to join the captains on the field for the coin toss and somehow almost got it wrong. I don't understand how that's
How do
possible.
you get a coin toss
Um,
wrong?
I'm trying to participation in the coin toss. So, he misunderstood. So basically, it's like after they won the coin toss, he said, "I want our defense to be out there," and
Uh,
like that's not how you're supposed to say it. You're supposed to phrase it as
we
we'll take the
defer, or
ball
yeah,
or we kick. So like he almost screwed that up and I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like that's intuitive enough where he should have gotten that. For me, it's just like Packers, don't old school your way out of a playoff spot. Like he's your best cornerback right now. He made a dumb decision, but like you're playing the Vikings next week who are at least gonna sling it around the yard. Like, come on, guys. It's important to make the playoffs this year. Like,
yeah,
surely like it's always a tough line to decide like culture building versus like we got to win a game.
yeah.
This feels like one of those times to let it slide because this isn't an egregious crime. This isn't even like conduct excessively detrimental to the team.
Hmm.
It's more just stupid and like yeah, I wouldn't, I probably would have thought that was
Yeah,
intuitive too, saying it out loud. But
yeah.
yeah, well, I'll be curious to see if that hurts them
That's
going
kind.
into this game.
That's pretty fair. I would like for them to like do this kind of stuff. It's like they're currently the them and the Vikings. The winner of that game is going to at least be the eighth man on the like 7-person playoff bracket. Which,
Right. They'll at least be, yeah.
well, nice. That's at like if somebody above them screws up, minus the whoever wins the NFC South by default. Um, but if someone above them that doesn't have it clinched screws up, that's them. That's them stealing that spot.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of like Rams versus Giants. Honestly, is probably a crapshoot at this point because of how both teams are. And then Seahawks versus Pittsburgh is another. It's less of a crapshoot and more of just like a Seahawks offense versus a Pittsburgh defense. And
Hmm.
Pittsburgh defense has been something I've been pretty sold on this season. So and it's
Oh, yeah.
like these are essential games and stuff, and that kind of shenanigans. It's like, come on, man.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I like this back end of the NFC playoff. It's it's very messy, but I like all of the teams slightly more than the AFC teams who could get in. Like I've just mentally had to decide a team from the AFC who I don't think should be in the playoffs is going to get in. But I'm like, and I don't know, maybe I'm just generalizing here, but like, you know,
I'm
outside of the Houston Texans, the
yeah,
outside looking in teams, I'm like, I don't want to see Cincinnati in the playoffs.
yeah,
Whereas I'm like, Seahawks would be fun, Minnesota would be fun. I'd even accept the Packers would be fun. I'd even accept the Falcons just as like the Schadenfreude of watching them get punched in the groin by someone.
But that would also validate Art Smith of having a playoff caliber
Yeah,
team.
you're
That's the
right
difference.
because they wouldn't. Yeah, damn it, you're right because they wouldn't phrase it as like you lost by 30. They'd be like, hey, you made the playoffs.
Yeah.
They never take the logic. Again, that was my whole beef with the Bills and the Bengals playoff game last year, where I'm like, yes, I see we made it to the second round, but we lost very badly. That's a good enough reason to fire someone. But I digress.
Yeah, I just need hopefully this week will be the week that the Texans and Colts don't get the matching up of their like wins and losses cuz Colts are playing Las Vegas who has as shown on Christmas a very strong defense.
Yes.
And
Speaking of Christmas games,
yeah.
oh, sorry, what was your last point?
No, it's like I want the CJ Stroud story to continue into the postseason.
Right. It's too fun. He should play this week. If he's not playing this week, that's a really big red flag in terms of concussion protocol.
Yeah.
But
his
we
brain
will have to
scrambled
see.
if that's the case.
I mean, I guess I would appreciate them actually being responsible about it, but at the same time, it's a pretty abnormal for this league.
Yeah.
But yes, speaking of Christmas games, it is time for one of our lowlights. As I call it, what the hell was that? Starring the Kansas City Chiefs. No, for real though, what the hell was this?
Yeah, no.
So the easiest get-right game, well, not the easiest, but a very clear get-right game. Patrick Mahomes has owned his division rivals in November and December historically well. The Kansas City Chiefs lose at home to the Las Vegas Raiders, 20-14. You want to know what's insane about this game, audience who did not watch? The I keep thinking they're LA. They haven't been in LA since like the 70s. The Las Vegas Raiders did not score an offensive touchdown in this game. Yeah. Aiden O'Connell did not complete a pass after the first quarter. Basically, this game came down to two things. The Chiefs' offensive line absolutely cratered. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life on every play. I was visiting my dad at the hospital while watching this game, and it just really, sitting down and literally watching every play, one, it affirms all of my stress about Travis Kelce. Like, he barely runs routes anymore. It's mostly chip block and then stand near the sideline and look for like a pseudo check down screen and just barrel through people. The run game was non-existent. Isaiah Pacheco was getting swarmed on every single play. And basically, Patrick Mahomes had to run and try and create on every single play. And that's where like the lack of talent in the wide receiving room comes into play, because it's like, it is the one like problem with these like creation quarterbacks. And it's one of the reasons why I'm a little down on Caleb Williams at times. It is like, if they do not 100% trust their wide receivers to be exactly where they need to be when it's time for the old razzle-dazzle, then it's just not going to work. And it didn't work here. Like, it's in terms of talking body language, the Chiefs, they truly look like the waspy yacht boys who have never lost a competition before and just don't know how to cope. Because it's like half the time it seemed like Patrick had to explain to the wide receivers where they needed to be. I don't know if they're just in their heads about that offsides or not. Like, Travis Kelce just yeets a helmet. Patrick Mahomes is like, I think, like damn near tears on the sideline, which is just very funny comparing him to Josh Allen, because they're both kind of having seasons from hell. And meanwhile, Josh Allen during that Chargers game, for some reason, got really hyper fixated on the big dog meme. Tiger Woods apparently just said big dog and high-fived someone. So he just kept doing that every couple of minutes. They had him mic'd up, and it just cut big dog. Kind of underlining like Patrick Mahomes is really in his head, and Josh Allen has nothing in between his ears, and that's why we love him.
Honestly,
he has nothing between those ears, but his heart is 3 sizes bigger than everyone else's, and that's why we love him.
Yeah, no, the only person I feel like that has less in between his ears because we love him is probably George Kittle.
Yes, very much like they are like a forced dyad of like just truly the dog from Up, just like happy ball runs through wall.
They got
but
big
anyway,
golden retriever energy.
Yes, truly, and like literally what happened in this game, folks, was literally a two-play sequence. The Chiefs tried to get cute and do a play where they snap it to Isaiah Pacheco, who then hands it off to Patrick Mahomes. But I guess he wasn't expecting the handoff, so he dropped it. And then he kind of lethargically tried to get it up, forgetting that his offensive line is a turnstile this year,
Yeah.
and got mollywopped as someone picked up the ball and ran it into the end zone for a touchdown. Truly, I almost dropped. I was doing a quick. I was exercising during this game, and I almost dropped a dumbbell on my foot because I genuinely was like, oh. And then literally the next drive, it's like, okay, Kansas City's going to calm down. They're going to get this together. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception for a touchdown. I know we're not supposed to count out the Kansas City Chiefs before they're actually out, but
if they do that performance again,
right? Because it's like, okay. Right now they're the third seed. There's an inexplicable chance they could lose the division because the Raiders are 7-8. It would be very unlikely, but it could happen. So let's just say everyone stays where they are in the playoff seeding. I'm like,
season ends today, and they stay where they are.
Wild card round, Buffalo Bills. Okay, maybe they just win it from historical leverage, but who knows? Then it would be, assuming everyone wins based on seeding, the Miami Dolphins. Away, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play his first playoff game away from home. At this point, it's basically impossible for anything else to happen. No, it's literally impossible.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to play the Baltimore Ravens. I'm like, can they win all three of those and then also go beat the 49ers or the Eagles or the Lions or the Cowboys?
Yeah, no, it's...
I'm getting real low here.
Yeah, no, it's getting real low for them, and it's like, what has happened? It's post Super Bowl rut, but unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, they have the Bengals and the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, they're the Chiefs, the Chargers to play.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those are two relatively solidish teams to get their mojo back, kind of.
Yeah. I think this was another point that was... Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it shouldn't be cakewalks for them. Especially if they continue at the rate they're going. But it's at least not absurd for them to win.
Yeah, it's... I think this point got lost in our famous Lost episode, but Deadspin had a really great article that was about Patrick Mahomes is getting Donovan McNabb. So much of what went wrong with the Donovan McNabb era in Philadelphia is Andy Reid really likes to get cute and really tries to be like, I don't need a number one receiver. I can make it work with sort of gadget players. So that's how with the Eagles, it's like Brian Westbrook, he's going to be one of our lead wide receivers. He's super athletic. He's this great running back. And it's like, or you could just get a wide receiver. Zach Ertz, big lumbering guy, the embodiment of the old school tight end. He'll be a guaranteed first down every time he gets the ball. Or you could just get a wide receiver. Darren Sproles. It just gets to this level of absurdity. And finally, it's no coincidence the one time Donovan McNabb got to the Super Bowl is when they're like, fuck it, we're getting T.O.
Yeah.
Who proceeds to have one of the greatest seasons any Eagles ever had and almost wins a Super Bowl on a freaking broken leg. And yeah, we're getting to that point with the Chiefs. And also, it is another example of what I was saying with the actual Super Bowl winning Eagles, where it's every now and then you can get a collection of B-minus offensive weapons and harmonize them all together to make something beautiful. That's literally what happened last year for them. All the guys happen to be in the exact right place at the exact right time with the exact right energy. And this is the other end of that spectrum, where it becomes every first down is a chore. It's an odyssey where the pieces aren't together. They're not coordinated. They're not harmonizing. The offensive line is breaking down and everyone's angsty. It is so it is truly insane how thin a nice edge that is. And they got lucky one year and now they're falling off the next year.
It's kind of insane. And they're so...
Yeah.
They're so, in theory, they should be so good, and it's just all the lack of them collecting weapons for Patrick Mahomes is showing. And
yeah,
my dad made a point on Christmas about it's man, them getting rid of Tyreek Hill is like one of the stupidest mistakes they've ever made.
Yeah, and it looked like a genius move last year, but that's because the line was as good as it ever been, and because all of these like also rans happened to step up that year. But now that they're not, and the offensive line isn't good enough to mask that, it's all falling apart.
Yeah.
This was always on the table. It was just a matter of like pile up first possible time, or does the specific chemistry not work? And deep down, I have to imagine someone in the Chiefs staff is just like, damn it, we really should have just overpaid for DeAndre Hopkins. Like, we haven't talked about him this year because he's on Titans, but like, that dude is actually low-key balling out. They're just feeding him, and he still looks really good. Like, he got his bag. He proved he can still play. Good for him. Mm-hmm. But, like, yeah, this offseason needs to be like the Chargers, the Bills, and the Chiefs being like, you know what, screw it. You actually want $15 million here.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Yes. Oh man, Bill is going full Lovey.
Let's go, Lovey Smith energy.
So yeah, woo 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 woo. Especially for me, because that means I don't have to deal with Drake May or Caleb Williams in my fucking conference, or at least division. Probably. Well, wait, no. If the Bears have to pay, it could go either way. We'll have to see. But yes, for now, I win. I'm the winner. I'm the football boy. I'm the one who wins. Yes. So the Denver Broncos lose to the New England Patriots 26-23. They get a huge lead for the vast majority of this game. It kind of looked over. They had a 23-7 lead going into the fourth. A furious comeback. Russell actually ties up the game with a 2-point conversion. And it's like, all right, well, okay, good job, Patriots. You showed you can put up a fight, but surely they're not going to come back. Bailey Zappi, of all people.
Yeah.
Bailey Zappi, inexplicably, well, no, Brock Purdy's the best of that draft, but better than Kenny Pickett from that draft, marches down the field and gets gets the team a 56-yard field goal with 2 seconds left to win the game. The New England Patriots have bumped themselves down the draft order. Let me pull up the order now. Here we go. Just updated from CBS. So they went from having the second pick, the fourth pick, with the danger of falling down at one more run. But it absolutely knocks them out of the quarterback competition, because if the Bears don't want a quarterback, they'll trade it. If the Cardinals don't want a quarterback, they're probably going to get Marvin Harrison Jr., and the Commanders will either get that quarterback or they will take the highest bidder to someone who does. It is very likely they might have knocked themselves out of the Caleb, Drake, Marvin Harrison sweepstakes because they decided to win a game. There is a great snippet of audio as they're cutting to commercials. Bill Belichick losing his flipping mind over what sounded like a procedural problem of like, you have to set the ball down with X amount of time. And you realize that man does not have it in his bloodstream to tank. He has been through this for too long and cares too much about his legacy to tank. And I think the lesson from this, and by extension the lesson Lovie Smith, although it did work out for the Texans, so maybe it'll work out for the Patriots, is if you're an owner or a GM and you have any inkling, any feeling, any thought that you are going to let go your coach by the end of the season because the season's not going well, and that thought gets leaked out, either don't let them know, or if it gets out, as it has with the New England Patriots, you have to just pull the trigger and do it. Because they absolutely will burn your franchise to the ground on the way out in the most awesome football guy way possible. Because, again, what does that draft pick mean to Bill Belichick if he's not coaching? Or even, hell, I could imagine a scenario where he gets to stay the coach, but they do force him to take on a new GM.
Yeah.
And again, what would that pick mean to him then? He's not the one making it. He's going to get someone he might not want forced upon him.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to him at the end of the day? And
it's kind of funny.
Again, yes, the whole Patriot Way thing is very overdone and very annoying. And it's so funny that they complained during the Chiefs game about deflated, some of the footballs were deflated. And we're like, oh, well, it's okay if someone else does it. And I'm like, shut the hell up.
That's just them admitting they did it.
Yeah, it is partially them admitting they did it. And again, leaving out the very important context that the punishment was much more for the Spygate stuff that the NFL had let them off the hook for previously.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the Patriots for this last little stretch of games are 2-1, and they're up against the Bills, who they have already beaten once. Kind of respect them for gutting it out at least,
Yeah.
especially with their best offensive player.
They clearly haven't given given up yet, and they might Lovey Smith it, which honestly I support.
Yes, that, and it felt like a Lovey Smith game where you're like, there are so many outs here. Like, it's okay. You don't have to drive down the field with less than left. That's too hard. Just relax. You showed what you can do. Oh, you're gonna win this game, huh?
Yeah,
Um,
take a load off, take a chill pill. Let's reconvene about it in the morning.
yes. Um, so, God, why did I even write this one? Washington still makes Carter mad. Okay, so the Washington Redskins. True. Well, this is actually one of the funniest. I should have probably put this as my don't sleep on game, but I didn't want to do Washington again. So the Commanders.
Are we
I'm
not going
trying
to
to think of how
acknowledge
to
how you just
describe.
casually said Redskins?
Son of a bitch. Stupid. We need to remember. Oh, man. All right, I'll go give money to the church or something. It's penance. The football church. Yes. So this game was a fucking disaster for the Commanders.
Yeah.
It was 27-7 going into half. Sam Howell, embodiment of non-competitive. Two interceptions,
Yeah.
basically in the first quarter. A fumble lost. A blocked punt. 6 of 22 for Sam Howell for 56 yards. And then once again, Ron Rivera goes, well, I probably lost my job already, but why don't I try to save it at the last possible minute? Jacoby Brissett, once again, living up to this meme
Yeah.
I've created of him, going 10 of 13 for 100 yards and a touchdown. They get it to they tie the game.
Yep.
Oh, no, wait a minute. No, they took the lead, I think, if I'm remembering these numbers correctly.
So
But
they
yes,
did take a 1 point lead.
yes, they took a 1 point lead. And this is even funnier because for the New York, they announced that their GM and Robert Saleh would be coming back. And they're putting out, like, they're doing maybe the funniest thing the Jets could possibly do. But fortunately for them, Trevor Siemian was able to at least get 30 yards to kick a game winning, or to get the game winning field
Yeah.
goal in. Just, it would have been an all time great. Yeah, we're going to stick to it and then completely poop your pants. But for me, it's like, what was the point of any of this, Commanders? Like, I know I've talked about, like, this season's not about winning, it's about if Sam Howell's good. But it's like, no, you're dumping talent. Like, you traded away your 2-star defensive ends. Clearly, you're trying to figure out who's worth keeping and who's not. And it's like, how can you do that when a guy goes 6 for 22? He is non-competitive. He is a stat chaser. It's like, now you have to look and be like, all right, is Terry McLaurin actually good? Is Logan Thomas actually good? Is
Yeah.
Dotson and Curtis Samuel any good? And it's like, how can you reasonably make that assessment now that you only have 2 games going with Jacoby Brissett? Because they announced he's the starter now. They finally given up this stupid charade. And it's like, no, it's too late. Like, you have to make a lot of difficult decisions. And I don't think you have the tape or the resources or the evidence that you can make those decisions, frankly.
Yeah. No, they're at the point where it's just like they gotta almost they're like going for like a mid, and it's not even mid season. It's end season rebuild.
Right. You basically have to throw out all of this tape you already have and make critical decisions on your franchise based on 2 weeks with a base level competent quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could be talked into them not drafting quarterbacks and just sticking it with Brissett for a year or two, but
Yeah.
like at the same time, that's more of an indictment on the fact that you just need some level of decent quarterback play to make decisions on all of this offensive talent you've slowly been accumulating, and less like who you should pick and who you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's just very frustrating because, again, there's too much talent on this team for this level of nonsense.
Yeah. No, they have a solid amount of like I almost want to call it sleeper talent, where you're not expecting them to be as good as they end up being.
Right.
And
All of them deserve better than this.
yeah, there's also
Um,
that. But it's like you're trying to shape your next season image, which I respect. This or like trying to get ahead of it if you know you're already out,
mhm.
but you don't know what you're doing. and you're kind of just futzing around and hoping something happens. And it's like you got to figure it out. Is it going to be Jacoby? Is it going to be Sam?
It cannot be Sam. I just like again. There's nothing I hate more than like sloppy franchise building, like mismanagement, and this is an apex example of that. Where this team could have, I'm sorry, this team could have made the playoffs if they had played Jacoby the entire year. Like
I
they have enough talent. The defense was good
I don't
enough. Like
think I
they
would
could
go
have done it.
that. I don't think I would have gone that far to say. I would say they would
Well, I'm
definitely
a
have a
radical, so I
better.
say they can.
I would say they definitely had a better spot in positioning, but to be guaranteed in the playoffs this year, I wouldn't have given them that.
Yeah. We already talked about cutlets hitting the freezer. I guess I don't
Yeah.
know what you do with cutlets. Um, Broncos country. Let's move on.
Yep. It's appearing that the Denver Broncos are going to be parting ways with Russell Wilson come March.
Yes. So they have announced that they're most likely benching him for the last two games, which
Yep.
promptly led to the "oh, you're going to leak stories. I'm going to leak a story." Very clearly leaked from Russ's camp of apparently the team was pressuring him to not or to waive his. Basically, he has a guaranteed clause in his contract that if he can't pass a physical, he's guaranteed X amount of money. Basically, like, oh, if I get
Yeah.
injured, I'll still get paid. And they wanted him to waive that, and he refused. So now
Rightfully so, in
they
my
are
opinion.
benching him. Yeah, it's like that's again. I love the Schadenfreude around Russ, but at the same time, like he had inadvertently helped bring the Patriots dynasty back. But like for me, it's like Broncos, you didn't do the due process on this. You gave him this much money. You have to live with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
This was bad management on your part that led you to this solution because you wanted a cool you wanted a big name quarterback and you blew it and you got to own that. And I don't know. I feel like people are overhyping his season a little bit. He has been better, but that like Patriots game kind of underlines the problem of
Yeah.
it underlines the problem of like at some point you can't be mad when the scorpion pinches you while you're carrying it over the water because it's like that game was like vintage Russ in terms of like he thinks he's more athletic than he is. He thinks he's got a little more like juice in the tank than he does. He thinks he's Drew Brees, which he is emphatically not, and he can only really play in a system that is tailored. Like he can only do the Russ offense,
Yeah. He
like
can't
running
do-
around, improv stuff. He can't do a Drew Brees offense, which is what Sean Payton's been trying to do the whole damn year.
Yeah. No, he's kind of
And
proven his.
I can
limits.
understand why yeah, exactly. So like I'm not shocked they want to move on from him. I just like you kind of have to take your lumps and accept the money is his and you can't fix that.
Yeah.
So like unless you can come up with a cheaper solution or just lose next year, you're going to have to accept that.
Yeah. Alrighty. What's next? Let's get on to some eliminated teams in our notes.
Oh, yes, we have a big swath of teams that just got eliminated from the playoff contention. Let me check the standings real quick.
Yep,
So joining the stinkers of the stinkers, we have the New York Jets, who, again, have announced that their coach and GM are coming back because they can lie to themselves and say Aaron Rodgers is going to fix this. The Tennessee Titans, who are 5-10, but a feisty 5-10.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Chargers, who are going to do a lot of soul searching to figure out what they're going to do with this modern era of Justin Herbert and need a coach. The New England Patriots, who had previously been eliminated.
Yep.
And joining the ranks on the NFC, we already had the Carolina Panthers and Arizona Cardinals, but now we also have the New York Football Giants with Tommy Cutlets and the Washington Commanders, who I just yelled about.
Yep. So teams are starting to drop like flies. We like that. We don't like that. Um, it's painting both the playoff picture from like the opposite end of the spectrum of like they're dropping off and they are like leaving, and then other teams are getting guarantees and making it in. So it's really putting the bubble, the higher bubble teams and the not quite on like guaranteed spots in teams on notice from
Right.
from literally both directions. And we saw how like an eliminated team can really just screw up stuff for other people. Like Broncos dropped to like with their loss to the Patriots, they dropped to if they lose, they have a less than 1% chance of making it
Mhm.
into the playoffs, and obviously that's not cool. And
Right.
Lovey Smith energy, man, it it really screwed things up for them. For the actually didn't really screw up anything.
Right. I mean, that's the funny thing, and I think that's like, again, it's a culture thing. Like, imagine how hard it is to wake up for half a month at your job and know it is effectively meaningless,
Yeah,
other than maybe guaranteeing you get a contract with someone else. Like, you really got to dig deep. Like, that truly is a dig deep moment of why am I doing this? Why am I risking my health to pull this off? And again, it's a gut check. Do you have a culture that is going to push you to win games in spite of it literally meaning nothing?
yeah.
Or are you just going to roll over and get in the groin?
Who's
Or, in Tommy Cutlet's case, are you going to merchandise the hell out of yourself?
oh, I mean that's the right answer if you ask me.
Yeah, like, I love that people are getting mad about this. Look, this guy came into the league with prospects of single snap of serious football and got thrown into a terrible offensive line with no receiving weapon. And I'm like, if I am actually doing this and risking severe brain damage every time I step onto the field, you better believe I am selling the fuck out, sir.
Yep.
Like, my 15 minutes are ticking very fast. It's almost midnight, and I'm kidding my cheddar.
Alrighty, Carter. Before we get into next week, what is the question of the week?
The question of the week is, you know what? I will say it's kind of what I was saying at the beginning of this episode. Is there too much football now? Now that we're a couple years into the week, how are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good about it when it's not on weeks like this one, where it feels like there's too much going on at once. I mean, sure, it's because of the holiday and they want to emphasize it, but I feel like there's a sweet spot of dialing it back and keeping it going, but not dropping games.
Yeah, I guess my stance is a part of it is just frustrating on my end because I'm like, good with decide to add an extra game and get rid of one of the bye weeks, but I don't know. I guess like for me, I'm just against sports expansion in general, only because I think every sports league would benefit from cutting like 2 to 3 weeks out of their schedule, or like a certain percentage out.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know. The last couple years, I felt like the season has just gone on too long, and I personally feel like it's going to be impossible because like the owners are going to take a hard line on it. But I really think they need to push back against the possibility of adding an extra season or extra week, because they've been talking about adding another game, and I'm just like, what are we doing here, people?
Too much.
Yes. Like, please, again, turn off your terminal capitalist brains for 2 seconds and remember that, yes, less is actually more in this case.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. So, shall we move on to next week?
Yep. Next week, no Monday Night Football.
Is there any? Have they given a reason for that, or are we just like no? Oh, is it because of major bowl games?
Yeah, it's New Year's Day, so.
Oh, right.
It's probably
The
why,
bowl
but you know,
games.
fun little thing.
Yeah. Right, because they actually do have agreements with the college football cabal not to step on their toes. I don't know. I just couldn't get into college football. I mean, I haven't gotten into college football in a while.
Yeah.
And it feels, well, it's not meaningless, but it feels kind of meaningless, especially
Feels
like,
forced-ish.
yeah. And I don't necessarily begrudge players for not playing in the bowl games, especially because more and more they find that it's like, if you're not in the college football playoff, throw yourself off a bridge because it doesn't mean anything. But like, yeah, it really, that's an example of too much football. When we're
Yeah.
getting to like 12 bowl games in one day, I'm like, what does any of this mean? Too much. Less,
Yeah,
please.
and it's just the who can sponsor the most money bowls.
Exactly. I don't know. I preferred the BCS system, honestly, but that's just me. And I'm like, I don't know, because it made like the Fiesta Bowl and the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the Cotton Bowl feel more special. But I digress. Our Don't Bother game. Do we both have the same game for this?
Yeah, there was no reason for me to pick any other game.
Yeah, I'm even skimming over to be 100% sure. Oh God, they have Green Bay, Minnesota's might go into the new year. Oh wait, no, they're on Mountain Time, so they'll dodge it.
Yeah,
But
but that's also like that means a decent bit. It shouldn't be a Sunday night game, but that actually means a decent bit. So it's like, all right, hold on. That one, well, it wouldn't be my optimal choice. It doesn't deserve a shitty spot.
right. But our Don't Bother game is actually Carolina versus Jacksonville. For me, this is mostly an indictment on Jacksonville. I'm just getting really frustrated watching them.
Yeah.
I love mine are always like less analytical and more just like, this team is making me mad and I don't watch them anymore.
Yeah. But this is unequivocally the most don't bother game of this week. Like, there's no reason anybody should be watching this willingly. Jacksonville, while not bad, is like they're not looking amazing right now, and
Right.
need to get themselves a little bit more sorted out. And it's the Carolina Panthers. They're the worst team of the year, almost guaranteed at this point.
Yes.
Like,
I think what's interesting about this game is there's a very chance the Jacksonville Jaguars just lose it. I guess that makes it interesting that this might be one of the better chances the Panthers have to win. But
yeah, this is, I think this is the most elite level team that the Panthers haven't, like, the biggest chance of winning against.
Right, of the teams who have like sincere playoff aspirations. But no, you can't talk yourself into this. But yes, it is one that I'm more interested in the box score than actually watching a single play from. I think that's a good way of putting it.
No, I'm not going to watch Trevor Lawrence throw the ball, but I'll admire his stats from a distance.
Correct. Shall we move on to our Don't Sleep On games? We have
Yes.
two fun ones. So mine is Indianapolis, Las Vegas. One, because this is a low-key playoff decider. Again, the
Yes.
Colts still have a chance to make the wild card, if not the division, inexplicably. And Vegas also, against all odds, against all reasonable, tasteful, empathetic law, have somehow gotten themselves into a position where they are only 2 games out of the division and 1 game out from a wild card spot.
Yep.
A team that truly gave up on its coach still has a chance to make the playoffs. I did love Antonio Pierce's comments after the game where he's like, I wanted this team built on hate. I wanted them built on anger. And I'm like, it's Christmas, my guy.
Yeah, no. I think this is. I love the story of this with them getting rid of their coach mid-season, and they've just kind of. And it almost feels bigger with them being the Raiders. They kind of just Mad Maxed it, and that Mad Max is Max Crosby.
Yes, it really feels like it fits their energy.
Yeah.
And it raises an obvious question of like this second time season has completely butts up for them where they had to fire a coach and they could make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Surely they at least have to give Pierce one more chance after this season, right? Like, they can't give up on the interim coach twice, right? Because, again, the mistake the last 2 times was giving up on culture and energy for a big name signing that didn't work out. You have to at least try culture once, and if it doesn't work out, it's like, well,
you're already setting a weird bar for yourself. So,
right?
what's like another like half-assed season with the
Right,
guy that was
yeah.
an interim coach as opposed to a half-assed season with a big name coach?
And also, not to be macabre about it, but you're already paying for 2 coaches who had to third if it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
Like, at some point, the actual number just becomes meaningless, right?
it has to. I swear it has to.
I'd hope so. And what is your Don't Sleep On game for this week?
All right, so my Don't Sleep On game is definitely not a Don't Sleep On game quality game. Like, it's definitely going to get recognition it deserves. It is Miami versus Baltimore, the current number 1 and 2 seeds of the
Yes.
AFC conference. And
This game will decide a lot of playoff seeding.
it'll decide a lot of playoff seasoning or seeding, dealer's choice. But the reason it's my Don't Sleep On game, they put it at the 1 o'clock time slot.
For shame.
Like, listen, I get relegating Patriots, Chiefs, and swapping in Seahawks, Eagles with that, but this is a huge caliber game, and when it was still within the threshold of changing around time slots and stuff, because they do stop after a certain point, I was like this one staying down here when these two were already like teams like 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 at that point. It's like, dear Lord, like, you have the Jets and Browns as the Monday or the Thursday night game. Actually, well, for a Saturday night game, you have Lions Cowboys, and that honestly kind of deserves it.
Yeah, that one they can justify.
That
but
one can stay in the same spot.
To play to your point, maybe they decided to keep it there because they're like, no one's going to be watching a football game at 11 p.m. as the ball is about to drop. So maybe they're like, 1 o'clock inadvertently becomes the primetime slot.
But then put it on Thursday night. Make that your sole game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but maybe they're... Well, no, I get because both of these teams were going to be in it either way. Yeah, I don't know why. They chose to be this way.
Yeah.
They definitely needed to give it a better spot, but the options were a bit limited.
Yep. But it's like, yeah.
Yes, this will decide if the Dolphins win the division. It will decide who gets the number 1 seed. I believe the Dolphins are locked into a playoff spot. If they lost to the Cowboys, they could have theoretically been locked in.
You know, this is like a real like missed opportunity, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yes, I agree completely.
Alrighty.
Any other thoughts as we wrap? Oh, yes, it is time for me to send the kids off.
Send the kids off?
Well, I hope you had a restful and thoughtful holiday. What is the phrase? Joyful but productive holiday. That's the line. Until next time, as the final week of the NFL season fastly approaches, I'm Carter.
I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next time.
Look out for the bonus video in the near future of us rearranging the order of the games for Week 18.